Most people think the airport starts judging them when they hand over a passport or place a bag on the belt. It doesn't. By the time you reach the counter, the system may already be reading you. Not just your ticket, not just your luggage, your pace, your posture, your clothing, the way you stand in line, the way you react when something changes. And that is what so many travelers never realize. Airports are built to move people smoothly, quietly, and predictably. The moment something about you feels unusual, even if you have done absolutely nothing wrong, that smooth journey can begin to change. Extra questions, silent delays, a second look, a bag pulled aside, a random check that may not be random at all. This is not about fear. It is about seeing the airport for what it really is, a system full of invisible decisions, hidden triggers, and quiet rules most passengers are never taught. In this video, we are going to uncover the airport secrets. They almost never explain clearly, not to make you anxious, but to help you move smarter, stay calmer, and avoid problems before they start. Because sometimes the biggest travel trouble begins long before boarding. Number 1. Your clothes can quietly get you flagged. Most travelers treat airport clothing like a comfort choice, but inside the airport system, it can become something else entirely, a signal. What you wear is not just seen by people, it is interpreted by machines. Security scanners do not care about style trends or whether an outfit looks expensive. They read shapes, density shadows, and anything that interrupts a clean outline of the body. That is where trouble can begin. Loose layers, oversized jackets, heavy coats, hoods, thick fabric, and excessive covering can create visibility problems, not because they are illegal, but because they make the scan harder to read. And the moment the system sees something irregular, it may quietly call for human attention. That is when a pat-down or extra screening suddenly appears and feels random. Even small details can slow you down. Metal threads in shoes, thick belts, decorative chains, reinforced undergarments, legal items, yes, but still enough to trigger alerts and waste time. There is another layer most passengers never think about. Dressing in a way that does not match the trip can also make you stand out. Very elegant clothes on a short flight, or clothing that looks wrong for the weather at your destination, can break the pattern airports are used to seeing. And airports trust patterns. The safest travel outfit is often the least memorable one, simple, neutral fitted, but comfortable with as little metal as possible. Because at the airport, blending in is not boring, it is smart. Number 2. What really happens to your bag after you hand it over? The moment you let go of your suitcase at check-in, most travelers feel a strange sense of relief. It is gone. It is handled. It is no longer their problem. But that comfort is often an illusion. In a major airport, the second your bag is tagged, it stops being just luggage. It becomes a tracked object moving through a tightly controlled system of scanners, conveyor belts, routing points, and hidden decisions most passengers never see. Every scan is recorded. Every pause is logged. Every diversion can mean something. And here is the part many people never think about. Your bag is not always judged by itself. Its data can be quietly compared with your passenger profile, your route, your travel pattern, whether you are flying alone, where you came from, and where you are going next. If the suitcase seems unusually heavy, unusually light, or simply inconsistent with what the system expects, it may be pulled for extra screening without a single word being said to you. No announcement, no warning, no permission request. By the time you are sitting calmly at the gate, your suitcase may already have been rescanned, opened, or flagged behind the scenes. So when people say your bag is just rolling to the plane, that sounds comforting. But it is not the full truth. Your luggage is being watched far more closely than most travelers realize. Number 3. What security agents can really see when you step into the scanner. When travelers step into the body scanner and raise their arms, most assume the system sees almost nothing. Just a vague outline, a simple shape, something distant and anonymous. But that is not how modern screening works. Today's scanners are built to detect far more than metal. They read density changes, unusual shapes, and inconsistencies in the way clothing sits against the body. Liquids, folded paper, layered fabric, and oddly placed patches can all trigger alerts even when the item itself is completely legal. That is where so many passengers get caught off guard. If you are wearing extra layers in unusual places or fabric that creates strange shadows, the system can flag it instantly. The alert does not explain what the object is. It only signals that something does not match a normal pattern. And once that happens, human review begins. But the screen is only part of the story. Security staff are also trained to watch behavior while you move through the line. How you walk, how tightly you hold your belongings, whether you avoid eye contact, whether your movements look tense, rushed, or uncertain. All of that can quietly shape how your screening unfolds. So the real truth is simple. It is not only about what you carry, it is also about how you carry yourself. By the time a passenger feels randomly selected, several signals may already have lined up. And that is why airport screening feels mysterious to so many people. The decision may look sudden, but in reality, it often started long before anyone said a word. Number 4. Why acting too normal can make you look less normal. Most people think the safest way through an airport is to act as normal as possible. Stay calm. Avoid attention. Keep moving. That sounds smart. But sometimes trying too hard to look relaxed creates the exact opposite effect. Airport staff are trained to notice behavior that feels forced rather than natural. A passenger who suddenly becomes overly cheerful, unusually stiff, too rehearsed, or strangely careful with every movement can stand out more than someone who simply looks tired after a long day of travel. And that is what makes airports so difficult to read. You are not only being seen, you are being compared against patterns, routines, and behaviors that staff observe every day. When your reactions do not seem to match the moment, even if you have done nothing wrong, that mismatch can quietly raise interest. This is especially true when something minor goes wrong. A boarding pass will not scan. A bag is pulled aside. A security officer asks a simple question. For most passengers, the response is brief confusion or mild frustration. But for someone trying very hard to appear calm, the reaction can feel delayed, exaggerated, or unnatural. And that difference gets noticed. The lesson here is simple. Do not perform calmness. Just be cooperative, clear, and natural. Because at the airport, authenticity often looks safer than perfection. Number 5. Your checked bag can be opened without you ever knowing. Most travelers believe that once a suitcase is checked, it stays sealed unless something has gone seriously wrong. That belief feels comforting. But it is not always true. In many cases, airport security authorities have the right to open checked luggage without asking for your permission and without notifying you first. Even a locked suitcase does not fully protect you. If the lock is approved, it may be opened and closed again. If it is not, it can be removed with no real explanation waiting for you later. The trigger is not always dramatic. It can be something as simple as a bottle packed poorly, electronics stacked too tightly, or an item that makes the X-ray image difficult to read. And often the reason is even less obvious. Dense packing, opaque wrapping, foil, plastic covering, a suitcase that looks heavily secured, an unusually compact bag, an unusually heavy one. All of these can quietly push your luggage higher on the inspection list, even when everything inside is legal. That is why so many travelers arrive, collect their suitcase, and never realize it may already have been opened, checked, and sent on its way. No conversation, no warning, no moment of permission. Just a silent decision made behind the scenes. The lesson here is simple. Pack cleanly, avoid unnecessary wrapping. Keep electronics easy to read and never place valuables in checked luggage. Because once your bag disappears behind the counter, it is no longer as private as it feels. Number 6. Airport staff may know more about your ticket than you think. Most travelers assume that when a boarding pass is scanned, the system reveals only the basics: your name, your seat, your destination. But that is often only the surface. In many airline and airport systems, staff can also see the type of fare you purchased, whether it was a discounted ticket, a full-price fare, a ticket booked with miles, a refundable option, or something bought through a third-party site. Officially, that should not change how a passenger is treated. In reality, it often can. And this is where the hidden hierarchy begins. Passengers who paid more, booked flexible fares, or hold higher fare classes are often given more consideration when an upgrade appears, when extra help is needed, or when a last-minute favor becomes possible. On the other hand, travelers on the cheapest tickets may quietly sink to the bottom when problems start piling up. That matters most when something goes wrong: an overbooked flight, a missed connection, a rebooking decision, a seat change nobody wants. In moments like that, price paid can become one of those invisible factors. No one says out loud, but everyone inside the system understands. And sometimes it is not even just the ticket itself. Staff may unconsciously read higher-paying passengers as more valuable, more experienced, or simply more worth accommodating. That is why smart travelers never rely only on what they paid. They rely on how they present themselves. Confidence, calmness, politeness, clarity. Because sometimes acting like a priority passenger carries more weight than the ticket ever could. Number 7. Valuable luggage can be marked without you ever being told. Most travelers assume that once a suitcase disappears onto the belt, it becomes just another bag in the system. Same treatment, same process, same risk. But that is not always true. When luggage is checked under premium cabins priority services or declared with higher value, it can receive internal tags or hidden codes most passengers never see. They do not say valuable in plain language. But inside the airport system, they can quietly signal that this bag is different. And that creates a strange contradiction. In theory, those markings are meant to help. They can tell staff to move the bag faster, handle it more carefully, or track it more closely. That sounds reassuring. But sometimes standing out is the risk. Because in a massive baggage system, anything that appears special can also attract the wrong kind of attention. During transfers, loading or storage bags believed to contain higher value contents may be more exposed than travelers realize. And if something goes missing, the protection many passengers assume they have is often far weaker than expected. Airlines may limit liability unless the contents were properly declared and insured. That is the uncomfortable truth. A priority tag is not the same as protection. A premium label is not the same as safety. And a suitcase is never the right place for cash jewelry, cameras, laptops, or anything you truly cannot afford to lose. Experienced travelers live by one simple rule: if it is valuable, it stays with you. And if it cannot stay with you, insurance matters more than any tag the airline puts on the handle. Number 8. How airport cameras can detect stress and nervousness. Most travelers assume airport cameras are there for one simple reason: to watch crowds and spot obvious threats. But that is only part of the story. Some modern surveillance systems, including thermal and advanced monitoring cameras, can also pick up subtle changes in the human body. When a person is anxious under pressure or visibly stressed, blood flow can shift, and heat patterns around the face, forehead, and neck may change in ways the human eye would never notice. The system can. That does not prove guilt, but it can trigger attention. And that is where many innocent travelers get caught off guard. If the system detects unusual thermal patterns, security staff may decide to watch more closely, ask extra questions, or send someone for secondary screening without ever explaining what first caused the concern. That is why airports can feel so unsettling. A person may think they were chosen for no reason, when in reality, their body may have reacted before they ever spoke. Rushing through the terminal, breathing too quickly, fidgeting. Scanning the room or showing visible tension can all work against you, even when the stress is completely harmless. The lesson is not to panic about being watched. It is to understand the environment. Airports are built to notice instability, even when that instability comes from ordinary travel anxiety. Slow movements, steady breathing, relaxed posture, and calm reactions matter more than most people realize. In a place full of invisible systems, staying calm is not just about comfort. It is strategy. Number 9. What really happens when you are taken into a restricted area? When people hear the phrase restricted area, they imagine places meant only for staff, locked doors, private corridors, rooms ordinary passengers should never enter. What most travelers do not realize is that passengers can be taken there too, and sometimes it happens without warning. If a security alert is triggered, if your documents raise questions, if your luggage creates doubt, or if your behavior draws attention, you may be quietly escorted away from the public terminal into a space designed for deeper checks. Not to create a scene, not to alarm other passengers, but to assess you out of sight. That is what makes the experience so unsettling. In many cases, people are not clearly told why they are being taken there. They hear calm phrases like, "Please follow us," or "We just need to verify something." You are not necessarily under arrest, but you are also not really in a position to refuse without consequences. And inside that private space, the purpose can vary. It may be deeper screening. It may be immigration clarification. It may be a medical concern. It may be security verification. Even when everything turns out to be completely fine, the process is often kept deliberately vague because the less the public sees, the smoother the airport system continues to function. So if this ever happens to you, remember one thing above all else. Do not escalate. Stay calm. Stay respectful. Answer clearly. Wait patiently. Because in the airport world, composure gets you out faster than confrontation ever will. Number 10. Why airline staff sometimes seem to know you before you speak. Most travelers believe the first real impression happens face to face. A smile at the counter. A question at the gate. A quick exchange before boarding. But in many cases, the airline system has already formed an impression long before you say a word. Your reservation can carry more than just your seat and destination. It may include notes tied to previous disruptions, special service requests, rebooking history, missed flights, unusual booking changes, or interactions from earlier parts of the journey. By the time an agent looks at your record, they may already have a quiet sense of whether you are a simple passenger, a complicated case, or someone who may need extra attention. That does not mean the system knows your personality, but it can shape how you are approached. A traveler who has had multiple itinerary changes, document issues, or repeated service problems may be handled with more caution. Someone with elite status, consistent travel history, or a cleaner reservation profile may be treated more smoothly from the first moment. And because none of this is usually explained out loud, passengers often mistake system-driven behavior for personal judgment. That is why some people feel warmly received while others sense distance almost immediately. The truth is, the conversation may have started before the human interaction ever began. So the lesson is simple: every step of a journey leaves a trace. And the more organized, calm, and consistent you are throughout the trip, the better that invisible story tends to look when the next staff member opens your file. Number 11. Why baggage scales can quietly cost you extra money. Most travelers believe weight is simple. A kilogram is a kilogram. A pound is a pound. If your bag is under the limit at home, it should be under the limit at the airport. That sounds reasonable. But real travel is rarely that clean. Airport baggage scales are calibrated and checked, yet they do not always read in exactly the same way. One counter may show a slightly different result from another. One airport may read a little heavier than the scale you used at home. And sometimes even a tiny difference is enough to push your suitcase over the line and trigger an extra fee. That is the part many passengers only learn at the worst possible moment. Some airlines and airports do not round down. They round up. So even if your bag is only barely over the allowance, that fraction can suddenly become a penalty, an argument at the counter, or a stressful repack in public while the line behind you keeps growing. And that is why experienced travelers never pack right up to the exact limit. They leave a buffer, because one extra kilogram, or even less than that, can become the difference between walking through calmly and paying money you never planned to spend. Weighing your bag at home still helps, of course, but the smarter move is to treat that number as an estimate, not a guarantee. And if a reading at the airport feels wrong, asking politely for a recheck on another scale may help, even if it is not always allowed. Because at the airport, even the scale is part of the system, and the system rarely rewards passengers who cut it too close. Airports look routine from the outside. Lines, screens, boarding passes, suitcases rolling away. But underneath that familiar surface is a world built on hidden signals, silent judgments and decisions most travelers never see. And that is the real lesson in all of this. Travel problems do not always begin with a dangerous item or a serious mistake. Sometimes they begin with something small. The wrong clothing, a tense reaction, a bag packed too tightly, a ticket that places you lower in the system, or behavior that simply feels out of pattern. That is why smart travelers do not rely on luck. They rely on awareness. They dress simply, pack clearly, stay calm, leave margin in their luggage, keep valuables with them. And most importantly, they understand that airports are not just processing bags and passports. They are constantly reading people. Once you understand that, the airport becomes less mysterious and far easier to navigate, because the travelers who move most smoothly are not always the richest, the fastest, or the most experienced. They are the ones who understand the system before the system turns its attention toward them.